Hello there, Sorry from 17 once again. This is the Bayonetta 2 Wii U demo. Alright then, so as of a few days back, the demo went live for Bayonetta 2, which is coming out, is it the 24th of October? It's already out in Japan. If you're lucky enough to have a Wii U that's Japanese, you can be playing this, but for everyone else, we have the demo to suffice, which is what you're watching right now. This is going to be pretty much some streamlined gameplay with none of the cutscenes that exist in the demo. I do intend to do some additional gameplays, but this is just my initial thoughts on what I've played and what there is to look forward to. So, a couple of interesting things about the demo. They allow you to play the first sequence of the game. It is a handful of these fights on top of the jet, and then it is back-to-back 2 boss fights. Then after that, that's pretty much all you've got. But one of the nicer parts is during the tutorial, which I've skipped right now, on the third section of it, you're able to practice every single combo of the guns that you have right now, which, the pistols. If you press, I think it's R1 on the Wii U controller, you will swap to the twin blades and the whip on the shoes. But I don't really like that weapon that much. I find it a little weird, and I've done some experimenting with it. It's probably going to be really good, but as it stands, it seems to be really quick and a little bit mashy, so I don't use it too much. But I'm going to bring some gameplay, introducing it, and by the time the full game comes, I'll probably be completely comfortable with how these functions work. But as it stands, I really like the pistols. I really like this new moveset, and I'm having a lot of fun just exploring the differences, the nuances, and a lot of the things that have changed between Bayonetta 1 and 2. So the demo does some interesting things. Doesn't let you restart checkpoint, which I think is a little bit disappointing. Doesn't let you switch difficulties, which I think is incredibly disappointing. Platinum do fantastic demos in as much as they give you a taste of the game that gives you an impression of what the game's going to be like. But at the same time, there's a lot of room for improvement. Konami's Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of the finest demos ever made, and it enabled you to do a lot of great things. It gave you a massive slice of the game, and it didn't compromise the final game, and not a lot of developers are brave enough to give you that amount of time with it. Even as much as the Team Ninja, Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge demo, they allowed you to play it on different difficulties and even unlock characters. There's a lot of information in these games that they could give more of in the demos, but they choose not to, and I think it's an interesting choice that they do it that way. For instance, you have 15 boots of this demo. If you boot it 15 individual times, apparently you won't be able to play it. I don't know what happens if it deletes itself off the hard drive. I don't know if it just locks your ID from using it, but essentially you can play it as many times as you want while you boot it in, but you can only boot it on 15 separate occasions. So I tend to find that when I boot it, I generally play it for an hour or two and do multiple playthroughs and just do a lot of fun and a lot of experimentation. A lot of people are curious as to how I feel about the game so far and, what my thoughts and my initial gut response is to it. And I can tell you it's all positive. I think it seems really, really cool. There's an option in the camera to pull the camera back from your character, which I've tried it on the setting it starts on middle setting, and on maximum setting, and in all honesty, I couldn't tell you a single thing was different. I love the idea of it, but I just don't see a difference. Not too sure what that's about, but it's a cool idea. I really like the new moveset. I really like the way the enemies react to being hit. Obviously, the game looks beautiful. It performs very well. There are frame drops in the demo, but because the frame rate is so high even during these drops, it takes a little bit of an experienced eye to spot it. And it's only on certain ways that you can spot it, because you'll probably hear that anything over like 30 frames per second your eye can't pick up, and it is true, but what your eye can pick up is fluctuations in frame rate, and that's what you see. You don't see the flawlessness, you see the imperfections. But as far as performance on gameplay and enjoyment, it really doesn't have too much of an effect, and I think the frame rate's going to be solid enough to get a lot of enjoyment from, and it surely can't be any worse than the frame rate in the first game, which is a plus. But some things I've really noticed. The first one is the enemies take a beating, and I don't know why. Watch what I'm hitting this boss with. I'm hitting him with wicked weaves, I'm doing full combos, and he only has 1 life bar, and he's taking it. And it's this interesting disconnect that I have for the game right now, because I'm used to Bayonetta, I've played a lot of it in my time, and I'm used to things dying. Like, the enemies had that right amount of health, that right amount of sponginess to them, that you could do some fancy combos, you could feel really good about yourself, but you could still feel really powerful. So far, just from this demo, and I don't know if the game is going to be a reflection of this, because we have to temper our expectation, guys, because this is just a demo. But so far, everything I've fought in this demo, except for maybe the horses on the plane at the beginning, has felt like it had a little bit too much life. And I don't know if that's because I'm not playing it correctly. I don't know if that means I'm not using the right attacks, or my weapons aren't upgraded. It could be a plethora of things, a myriad of different issues that culminate in me feeling a little bit weak when it looks like I'm doing these really badass things. And I think that the conceit here is the umbran climax. So you'll notice on the top left, when I get full magic meter, it says press L1 to do umbran climax, which is what you're watching right now. Then the magic drains until it's empty, and then it stops. One of the more acute eyes of a Bayonetta player will notice that we're not in unlimited mode for the bosses on this game. I don't know why. If you don't know what that means, basically in the first Bayonetta, she would essentially unleash her full potential, and every attack she did would be a wicked weave. In this game you don't have that. Instead you have this umbran climax, which allows you to have that potential, but it moderates it as a technique. And on the surface it sounds like a really interesting thing, and visually it looks amazing. The problems I have with it is, it makes a game that's already incredibly hectic and crazy even crazier and harder to see. So there are moments when I believe the umbran climax pretty much stuns anything, and it kinda has to, because there's no way in hell you're going to be able to see what the hell you're meant to be dodging, because you're too busy having your screen bukkakied with fanciful looking attack animations. And it leads to two things. The first one is intelligent use of umbran climax as I get bit there by Gamora. And the second one is, it feels a little spammy. So, a couple of things I noticed from it were, if you do, for instance, the 4-punch and then the kick combo, if you do the combo up until the kicks, and then you activate umbran climax during the kicks, as if it was, like the Kilgore glitch, the final hit of those kicks will be the payoff hit. And it seems like, just on the surface, that the best way to get the most use out of it is to activate it late in a move when the wicked weave takes place, and then use moves that have wicked weaves. However, Platinum released a blog essentially saying that they've nerfed the punch, kick, punch, wicked weave, because if you ever used it in Bayonetta 1, it's one of the most destructive and quickest attacks you can do. It's the plume of Prometheus from God of War, it's the Azuna drop from Ninja Gaiden, it's the move that you can go to that just wrecks shop every single time. So they've intentionally made it that it's not as good, and it's kind of rewarding experimenting, which is a good thing, of course. There is a lot of interesting things in this demo, and I don't really have too much time to discuss them, unfortunately, but I will cover this a little bit more and give more thoughts. I'll probably try doing a live playthrough if I can get the volume to work right. But the final thing I noticed is one of my concerns with the game, and probably my only concern, because so far I'm incredibly excited. I can't stop playing the demo. I just wish there was more of it, and in 12 days there will be. So it makes me an incredibly excited gamer, because Platinum make the kind of games that got me excited when I was younger. They make the kind of games that made me remember those days where I looked at the clock and it was dinner time, and I looked at it again and it was bedtime, and the world just ceased to exist. It was just me and that game that I had fallen in love with. And I'm probably going to do that exact thing with Bayonetta 2, but the one thing I've noticed, and you can probably notice as well, is there is a red enemy in the demo. He's one of the horses, he's one of the bigger horses, he does a different attack, which is a 2-hitter, and he's tougher, he's got a lot more life. He has the ability to parry you and interrupt your attacks when you're attacking him, and it's something I've seen quite a lot of, and I don't know how it's going to work, I really don't. But as it stands, the only things I'm curious about is, of course, HP that the enemies have, the parry functionality, and that's pretty much it. Everything else I cannot praise enough. It seems awesome, it seems fun, it's different yet familiar. I'm incredibly excited for when this game comes out, and I'm going to cover it with all my heart I can. Because I get the feeling that Nintendo aren't going to be too bad with it on YouTube, because the Wonderful 101 content I've been bringing hasn't been flagged once, yet the Sega Bayonetta content got flagged almost every video. And that entire series, as amazing as it was to do and I had a lot of fun with, literally earned me nothing, you know? It was like fucking... just every single video was flagged horrifically, and it seems like Sega might be worse than Nintendo, which would be bizarre considering that, you know, essentially they are... what are Sega anymore? Except for a publisher and a shadow of their former self. An interesting position to be in. But that was Bayonetta 2. Expect a little bit more from it. I'll probably not be able to do anything like Pure Platinum the entire thing, because you have to do all 3 verses in a row, and I'm just not that kind of player. You know, I make stupid mistakes. Just look at the beginning of this video. I got hit by a scripted attack that the creature does off when it comes onto screen to transition to the next phase, and the motherfucker hit me. So... it's just the kind of way I am. But thank you very much for watching and listening, and look forward to more Bayonetta 2. You take care now.